Pentecostal podcast. This is Dr. Jonathan Alvarado, and I want you to know that this is an exciting and a wonderful day and time we're going to have together on today. I want to encourage you to stay tuned. I want to encourage you to let somebody else know, share this video with somebody else. I want to invite you to drink deeply of what we're going to discuss on today and to stay tuned until the end for a very important and special opportunity that we're going to forward to you by the end of this podcast. All right? All right, good. I want to talk to you for the next few moments and share with you from this thought and this insight, truth or consequences. When I was growing up, there was a show in the 60s and the 70s. I was born in 65. So in the 70s, there was a show, 60s and 70s, there was a show called Truth or Consequences. And that particular title has stayed with me and came up in my memory as I was thinking about our current state and wanting to share with you some insights that I perceive from our current state. Will you allow me to read a passage of text or two to kind of frame our discussion today? Jesus said in John's Gospel, chapter 14, starting in verse 15, "If you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father. He will give you another helper that he may abide with you forever. The Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. But you know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. I will not leave you orphans. I will come to you." Again, in the 15th chapter, that was the 14th chapter of John, and then again in the 15th chapter, verse 26, he says, "But when the Helper comes, whom I shall send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth, who proceeds from the Father, he will testify of me." I want to take the next few moments to talk to you about this notion of truth or consequences. Why lies are necessary to maintain white evangelical power. I want to talk to you and share some resources with you. I began this discourse a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, and talking about the a Pentecostal spirituality of reading, and we discussed Chandler McIntyre's Caring for Words in a Culture of Lies, and John McWhorter's The Degradation of Language and Music, and Esau McCulley's Reading While Black. We talked about words, and we talked about expression, and we talked about social location, and we talked about truth. And I wanted to explore that notion of truth a little bit further with you on today because it is such a necessary and important thing for us as Pentecostal Christians and as Christians in general to embrace truth. It's an important consideration because there are some major forces that are out there that are perpetrating lies that the body of Christ is taking in hook, line, and sinker, the fisherman and his boot. And I just wanted to take a few moments to debunk lies, speak truth, and talk about the necessity of speaking the truth, of embracing the truth, of assimilating the truth. Because if we don't, there will be truth or consequences. And I want to dive into, just for a moment or two, why lies are necessary to maintain white evangelical power. I want to talk about it just for a moment today. I want to point out, first of all, some things that are lies that the broader culture is embracing and assimilating and taking in as truth. There are at least three that are of significance on today. This idea, number one, that we're dealing with George Floyd, we're dealing with police brutality, and I mean just any number of examples we could give, person after person after person who's been brutalized by law enforcement. And while I agree, and it is true, that there are good police officers, the vast majority of them are good men and women, public servants who serve the broader public. The lie that's being told is that it is an individual thing. Well, Dr. Alvarado, if you're saying that there are majority of police officers are good, then it has to be the bad individuals, the bad apples, the bad ones, singular, within the group that are the ones that are perpetrating the brutality and the disregard for human life. Well, I think that is a truism to a degree, but I think what shades it and couches it squarely in the context of an untruth is the denial of the fact that the system of policing has been corrupted by the larger system of racism that devalues and dehumanizes black and brown bodies. See, the lie is that the police see everybody as equal. That simply is not true. Society, culture, the systems that exist within our culture give police officers the lenses and the predisposition to see black and brown, particularly men, as threats, as particularly violent, as predatory, and to be dealt with significant levels of caution, and devalue their lives and existence such that moving immediately to deadly force is an immediate option because there's a devaluation of life. Where there's a valuation of life, there's a de-escalation of tactics. But where there's a devaluation of life, there's an escalation of tactics to deadly force. And it's a big lie. See, one of the things that I'd like to press upon those that have courage to listen to this is the notion that we have to embrace the truth that black and brown lives have not been in this society, in this culture, in this country, in this hemisphere, valued as much as our white counterparts. That is simply the truth. And until that truth is told, until that truth is assimilated, until that truth is believed, we'll live in a state of consequences. I want to encourage you to like and to subscribe. If you're getting anything out of this, any instruction, any value, anything that kind of guides your thinking along that wise, like and subscribe. Hit the notifications tab. May not be the kind that you want to do so on today, but let me press a little bit further. The idea when we start talking about systemic racism and systemic ills and evils that plague our country, one of the things that we're talking about is the white evangelical dismissal and the white evangelical refusal to accept the findings of and the validity of critical race theory. And how it's the white evangelical response typically to that is that, it's not in the Bible. I need to see that in the Bible. That goes against the tenet of Scripture, as if God hasn't given us a mind to think and eyes to see and hearts to discern and to be able to analyze the goings on, to see that there are the systems that exist, which is what critical race theory engages and approaches. Critical race theory deals with the systems that exist in the broader public. There'll be links. I want you to see this text. Delgado wrote the definitive work. This is the third edition on critical race theory. Some people are talking about it, haven't even read anything about it. The link for this book will be in the description below. So make sure that you get a copy of Delgado's text on critical race theory, so that way you can at least speak intelligently to the matter and intelligently to the issue. You see, our country, the history of our country has been built upon a systemic racism, devaluing black and brown lives, the ontological terrorism that black and brown bodies have experienced over the course of our 400 plus years of existence in the Western Hemisphere, and particularly in North America, have brought us to a critical understanding of what it means to be black or brown. And though our white evangelical counterparts would oftentimes like to say, the playing field is level, that's in the past, those things don't exist anymore, for God's sake, we gave you a black president. I mean, the truth of the matter is those things do very much exist. The systems are still very real, and they manifest themselves on a daily basis. The lies that are told in perpetration of those things and in perpetuation of those systems that keep men and women of brown and black hue down and oppressed and marginalized and victimized by the broader system and the individual actors and players within the context of that system. I know what I'm talking about when you've got legislators in Tennessee, a particular legislator in Tennessee and a particular legislator in Colorado, standing up before their legislative bodies, trying to repristinate the Constitution, telling lies about what it means to be the 3/5 compromise. I mean that how that was a measure to end slavery. That is simply a lie. That's not the truth. What the South was pushing for was a full recognition of their slaves for the purposes of being able to have more representation in Congress. It was a move to get more power, to have slavery more entrenched. It was a three-fifths compromise because the powers that be did not want to recognize, wanted to recognize slaves in the South, wanted to recognize them for the purposes of being able to have more legislators and more legislative and political power. But they did not do that in an attempt or an effort to in any way stop slavery. They did that in an attempt to get as many votes, to have as much recognition of population, because that's how legislative seats, congressmen, senators, and the like are assigned to particular geographic regions, is based upon populations. And so if we can get them counted but not allow them to vote, get them counted but not allow them any power, get them counted, it gets us more legislative seats. Thus we can more firmly and deeply entrench our way of being into the national fabric. And the truth is that that's the three-fifths compromise. But you have legislators in Tennessee and in Colorado that are standing up before legislative bodies trying to repristinate history to say that the three-fifths compromise was something that was to stop slavery. That simply is not true. It's a lie. And those that embrace it as such embrace lies. And truth stands all by itself. Anything other than truth has consequences. Let me say a little bit more about this. I'll conclude this little part here by saying the big lie that's told, the big lie that's being perpetrated from the halls of the former occupant of the White House and the halls of Congress and the Senate, and those sycophants and adherents to that way of being in the world are still perpetrating the big lie that the former president didn't lose legitimately the election. He lost it, and lost it in grand fashion. Over 2 million votes. He lost it, and lost it well. But he's out. Every other president that has ever lost, the peaceful transition of power in the United States is one of the hallmarks of our democracy. We haven't had within my 55-year lifetime any president that behaved as childishly as this particular president did and did not accept the results of the election because of his narcissism, because of whatever his predilection is about his own personal winning and the like, and because of the big lie that he continues to perpetuate even now. And there are others, evangelical Christians, white evangelicals, that have grabbed onto the lie, hold on to the lie, and say that that lie is true. I'd like to suggest to you today, there is truth or there are consequences. And hear me when I say it to you, precious dears. That's a lie. It's been debunked. All this idea about voter fraud and all this mail-in ballots were fraudulent and millions of illegal voters, all of those things have been debunked about 60 times in courts where that president had appointed judges, got thrown out of court because of the ridiculous nature of the big lie that was being told. It's a big lie. Truth or consequences. I want to suggest to you today that if you and I are not careful, we're going to continue to experience these consequences. The number one, the consequence of a fractured nation. Our country is fractured and the divide is deepening. We're going to continue to experience a culture of distrust. Millennials and Gen Z, by and large, don't trust the church because of the acceptance of lies, blatant, overt, unmasked, unveiled lies that church leaders are perpetuating and church congregations are following blindly. Millennials and Gen Z is later for that because one of their main things is keeping it real, keeping it 100. Young people, if you are listening to me today, and I know many of you are, hear me when I say it to you. The truth will stand all by itself, and sometimes truth requires time to be seen in full fruition. I want to challenge and encourage you to give the truth time to germinate. All it takes, a lie cannot last forever. It can be loud, it can be boisterous, it can be upfront, it can seem like it's prevailing, but lies cannot last forever. Black and brown citizens, I'm talking about the consequences, not only of a fractured nation and a culture of distrust, young people not trusting the church. Black and brown citizens don't trust the police. I'm 55 years old. We have never trusted the police in my lifetime. And prior to my lifetime, the police could not be trusted. The police couldn't be trusted because of the inequities in stops, arrests, in the laws that prevailed that allowed them to behave certain way toward black and brown citizens, and they behaved other ways toward white citizens. This culture of distrust that persists. The majority culture doesn't trust the government because of lies, because of the lies that are told. Now the government, the political systems that are in place to serve the needs of our common living together, politics, the governmental systems, aren't and cannot be trusted because of the lies that are being told. And then because lies are perpetuated and because lies are embraced, then when truth comes to the table, it sounds like a lie. And lies push back stridently against the truth. So the culture now suffers in a divided nation, in the distrust of millennials and Gen Z, and in the majority culture not trusting the government. Finally, the major thing that I think is so injurious to us is that we now have a church with no witness. Because the lies that have been told, one of the consequences is the church has lost its witness. My friends around the planet, when I talk to my international friends, many of them say to me, man, what's going on with the church in America? The church in America has lost its witness. When you stand with lies and liars, you lose your witness. When you don't hold on to the truth, there are consequences. And I was burdened today to come and make this podcast, this vlog, to be able to share this thought with you because I'm calling the church to the side of truth. Jesus said when he left, he sent us the Spirit, but he called the Spirit in John, in those two, John 14 and John 15, the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot see, the world cannot know. But you know the Spirit of truth because he's with you and he'll be in you. The Holy Spirit that dwells in us Pentecostal people is the Spirit of truth. The truth that prevails over every lie, the truth that calls us to righteousness, the truth of not just the factuality of events, but the truth of God, the eternal truth, the settled truth, the established truth. If we deal in truth, then we won't have to deal with the consequences of dealing in lies. I want to offer you an opportunity. If you've hung in with me this long, I want to offer you an opportunity for us to hang together and to deal with and explore the truth of Pentecostal spirituality. Listen to this. Hey, this is Dr. Jonathan Alvarado, and I'm cordially and personally inviting you to a symposium on Pentecostal spirituality being hosted by the Greater Atlanta Theological Seminary and Global Pentecostal Perspectives on Pentecost weekend, Friday, May 21st and Saturday, May 22nd from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time online. I want to encourage you to register and be a part of this life-changing event. We have wonderful guests, guest lecturers, and guest interlocutors that weekend in the persons of Dr. Estrelda Alexander of the William Seymour Foundation in Bowie, Maryland, the author of Blackfire, A History of Afro-Pentecostalism, and Dr. Robbie Waddell, New Testament scholar, early church historian, Pentecostal scholar in Southeastern University, Lakeland, Florida. They too will be with us on that weekend, instructing, encouraging, answering questions, and guiding us into this spirituality. You do realize that Pentecostal spirituality is the fastest growing spirituality of all the Christian traditions around the planet. You and I should be together on that weekend to dialogue, to discuss, to pray, and to hear from the Lord. Don't miss a symposium on Pentecostal spirituality. Pentecost weekend, Friday, May 21st, Saturday, May 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. both days. You may register at gatseminary.org. That's gatseminary.org. Click the registration button and you can register, and we'll be together on Pentecost weekend for a symposium on Pentecostal spirituality. I hope to see you there. Hey, if you derived any value out of our time together on today, do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It always helps us if you're a part of our family. Perhaps you are moved and you'll even give a donation. The information for donating is scrolling across your screen right now, either via Cash App or PayPal. I want to encourage you to do so on today, and I want to thank you for the ones of you that have taken every opportunity to be generous and give us the opportunity to continue to bring these broadcasts and podcasts and the like before you. Thanks again for being a part of us, not just Global Pentecostal Perspectives, but thank you for being with us on Global Pentecostal Podcast.